But we start with reports this morning that Manchester United will turn to Gareth Southgate to take over if they decide to part ways with Erik ten Hag in the summer. Doogie, what were your thoughts?
I think surprised, to be totally honest. But you do look at his England record, and he has obviously done a phenomenal job there, of course. He's England's fourth longest-serving manager. By the time they're midway through the group stage of the Euros, he'll be England's third, overtaking Bobby Robson. Only Fabio Capello has won more England games for permanent managers there, or managers that have taken charge of more than one game. Of course, Sam Allardyce was 1 from 1. So there is an element of surprise in this. At the same time, he has rebuilt the culture of England. He's got players wanting to play for England again. Our performances at major tournaments have been the best since either 1990 in terms of the World Cup. We'd never reached a Euros final before, of course, lost on penalties. So he has taken us to the edge of glory, just haven't quite managed to get over the line just yet. But for Man United, who it feels like at times over the last 10 years have needed a cultural reset, he could be quite an interesting appointment.
Certainly could. Right, it's been a long time since Gareth Southgate managed at club level, though, hasn't it, Michael? Remind us what his record was like there.
Yeah, it's days at Middlesbrough. But before we go to Middlesbrough, let's have a look at his England record, because he's been at England a long time now, hasn't he, as national team head coach. The 2018 World Cup, getting to that semi-final, that heartbreaking defeat to Croatia. Many thinking England could have gone all the way there. It was a decent run to that semi-final as well, wasn't it? Then there's that Nations League, finishing third there. Then, of course, at Wembley, losing on penalties to Italy, runners-up, and, of course, thinking about it, extra time, could they have done more? But runners-up then. And then, of course, the 2022 World Cup, that quarter-final defeat to France. Obviously, Harry Kane missing that penalty. So they've been really, really close under Southgate. Can they go that one step more and lift the trophy in the next few months? We'll wait to see. So this is his Middlesbrough record. Obviously, Gareth Southgate looking a bit younger there, of course. He lifted the League Cup for Borough and got to the UEFA Cup final as a player. Those leadership skills earning him the permanent manager's job after Steve McLaren moved to England, finishing 12th. Now, 2007-8. We all love Premier League years, don't we? Do you remember that 8-1 win against Manchester City? Sven's last game in charge of Manchester City. Well, that was the best part of Middlesbrough's season, finishing 13th. That was their highest ever Premier League victory. They were relegated in the 2008 and 9 season. He wasn't sacked after that. He actually started the season in the Championship with Middlesbrough, but was sacked in October when they were 4th after a win against Derby. But Steve Gibson was concerned over low attendances. United fans thinking, what's his cup record like at Middlesbrough? Didn't get past a quarter-final, second round, a quarter-final there, third round, quarter-final with Cardiff, third round against Manchester United 2008. But look, let's remember something. Let's look at the years here. That's a long time ago, a long, long time ago. So, Southgate's Middlesbrough record, Southgate's England record, and of course, Ten Hag still very much in charge at Manchester United. But of course, all the talk this morning is about maybe Southgate's future after England.
Pete, let's come to you.
We'll try again.
Only joking. As Michael was saying there, I mean, it is a little bit harsh to judge him on stuff that happened sort of 15 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, very harsh.
You're sort of more interested in the here and now. He was a young manager then.
Yeah, we're talking about 15 years ago there, aren't we? And I think the interesting thing for me, not what he did previously in club football, it's about how you evolve from being an international manager into going back to club football, the day-to-day work that you've got to do there. You know, results every 3 days, the twists and turns of being a club manager, managing those players on a regular basis. That's not what we've seen from him. The other thing I'd say, tactical scrutiny. You come in for a lot of that if you're Man United manager. And if you're Gareth Southgate, I think his biggest critics will point to games against France at the World Cup, against Croatia back in 2018, against Italy in that Euros final. In those big moments, did he show enough tactical ability to swing it England's way? Now, obviously, they didn't get the results, did they, in those matches? And I think that's the sort of question that will be asked of Southgate when he comes back to club football. And I think it's really interesting what level he does come back in at international football. Obviously, talk about potential Man United role here. Does having success at England level really translate to going straight back in and potentially challenging for a Premier League title? I don't know. What I was going to say earlier on was about timing of it, because I think obviously Ten Hag's got a contract with United, Southgate's got a contract with the FA who want him to stay on to the next World Cup. They would like him to extend that. And the new Premier League season starts about a month after the Euros final, about a month after England's victory parade, maybe. But that's not a lot of time for Southgate to step into a completely new world of club football. Man United, get to know all those players and imprint what he wants to imprint on those players in pre-season. So, yes, it's tricky. I can see the Dan Ashworth connection, and I think as a figurehead of a major club like Man United, I think Southgate could do that. He's a figurehead in the England role. But actually, the actual transition, I think there's quite a lot of issues around that and question marks around that.
Yeah, and Dougie, you were talking about, the reset at Manchester United. At a club like that, you have to deal with big egos, you have to deal with intense scrutiny, and you have to be the face of a giant machine, don't you? But all three of those things he has managed to accomplish as England manager, hasn't he? So he's got that on his CV, and the scrutiny England's most probably more than United.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Man United is probably the most talked about club in world football, but I think the England job is probably one of the most scrutinised jobs in world football, to be totally honest. And the way he's dealt with particularly issues surrounding racism during his time in charge of England, I think is really impressive. He's got that sort of statesmanship that I think would adapt well to being a figurehead of a club of that size. But then at the same time, Ten Hag's still got a contract for another year. He's going to be reasonably expensive to remove from position if they wanted to go down that route. Man United have pulled back their transfer spending in the last couple of windows due to concerns over overstepping PSR rules. Those PSR rules might be adapted to then take into account club revenue, which would expand their reach. But at the same time, Ten Hag did have a reasonable first year in charge. This year obviously hasn't gone to plan. He's already lost 11 Premier League games. Their most in a Premier League season is 12. Obviously had that embarrassing Champions League campaign. The FA Cup is really their only chance of saving it. But it just feels like if the Man United job becomes available this summer, it will be at the same time the Bayern job, the Barcelona job, the Liverpool job, potentially the Napoli job, potentially the Bayer Leverkusen job. Any potential candidate, I think, would probably choose a number of those clubs before Man United, so it doesn't feel like they'll necessarily get their first choice. So it will be interesting to see whether a name like Southgate can get into the hat. And
this does seem exceptionally unfair as well, all this talk on Erik Ten Hag. And you're talking about timing. So what is the thinking behind that? He's in a job. He has the possibility of taking United to their third cup final in 2 years under him. That's not a bad return.
Yeah, and we're just speaking days after a win over Liverpool, which really, I think for the first 35 minutes, we might have seen the best version of Man United we've seen under Ten Hag. That performance in that front foot, the whole crowd with them as well. And especially, obviously, with the late winner from Diallo as well. There was so much momentum and belief around the team. And afterwards, Ten Hag was talking about the potential. Yeah, so interesting that a few days later, we're then talking about him potentially leaving in the summer. Also, we've heard Jim Ratcliffe this week speaking on a podcast saying how he wouldn't like any of the other teams to win the league. But if Arsenal did it, that'd be quite nice because they've given patience to Arteta and given him time to work. So that would be a bit strange then if he suddenly came in and swept away the manager who is trying to build something at Man United at the moment. So, yeah, I think with Ten Hag, as Dougie says, he's lost a lot of games this season. He's not built on the foundations of last year, and I think it comes with the territory of being Man United manager that if it's not going very well, if you finish bottom of your Champions League group, you're not in the places to qualify for Europe right now for next season, you're going to come under question marks about your position and whether you can take the team forward. But it's really with Ratcliffe, isn't it? I think it's how he sees it, whether he wants to come in this summer and think, this isn't working because we don't have the right sporting director in place, we don't have the right recruitment issues going on, or it's because Ten Hag's not right. And it's really down to Ratcliffe, that one man's view really, and obviously the audit that Dave Brailsford's done for him on this whole process and the whole club really. And it'll be interesting to see which way he sees it in the summer.